Hello, YouTube. We're going to talk about win totals today. We don't have Vegas win totals except for the SEC East, which is fun. But we do have like FPI, so we can kind of finagle some win totals. So I got Spencer Davis with me, and we're going to talk about Clemson right now. Spencer, Clemson, according to FPI, should win 11 games.
Seems high.
Tell me why I should believe that Clemson can win 11 games, because I watched their quarterback last year.
Yeah.
So tell me why I should believe Clemson can win 11 games.
Well, look, their defense is going to be elite, and 11 games is strong. If the Vegas win total is 11, I would probably advocate for going under there. I think 10-2 would be a pretty good regular season for them. They could still win the ACC with that kind of a record. But like if you are to make a case for why they could go 11-1, the front seven might be the best in the country, full stop. I mean, they're bringing so many guys back. They've recruited so well over the years. Miles Murphy's back. Xavier Thomas is back. KJ Henry's back. Trenton Simpson's back. They're getting Brian Breezy back from his injury. He should be better, or he should be back this year. And, former five-star, I think he was the number one overall player in his class, but has battled some injuries throughout his career at Clemson, so he hasn't had a huge impact yet. So it could be a breakout year for him. I mean, they're just going to dominate the line of scrimmage. And then on the offensive side of the ball, their offensive line wasn't very good last year, but they do return about 80% of their starts from a year ago. In terms of career starts, they're bringing a lot of guys back. Jordan McFadden, and a few other guys, Walker Parks, Will Putnam, Mason Trotter. I think Mason Trotter actually is out. I need to update that on my spreadsheet. But they're bringing back a lot of guys from last year's team on the offensive line, so they should be improved, right? And then they've got three really good running backs in Kobe Pace, Phil Maffa, and Will Shipley. The question mark, like you mentioned, is going to be the quarterback. Is it DJ? Is it going to be Cade Klubnik? I think DJ is going to be the guy from the start, and we'll see kind of how he does. But last year he was one of the worst passers in the ACC, and I don't think all of that was his fault necessarily. I think you could put some blame on the offensive line and some of the other, they had a bunch of receiver injuries. But the reality is that Clemson didn't have somebody like Cade Klubnik to push him, right? Like they didn't have anybody that could come in and quote unquote take his job mid-year. And now they do. Like Cade Klubnik by the middle of the season could be a viable option for them. So I think that competition is going to be good. And obviously DJ still has a lot of pedigree, former five-star guy. He was one of the Heisman Trophy favorites going into last season, which is kind of crazy to think about now, given the year that he had. But yeah, so just to summarize there, like the defense is going to be elite again, even though they do have to replace their two starting corners. But I think they have the talent to do that. And the offense, I see some reasons for optimism.
I guess, if you're going to try to be the hunted in the ACC rather than the hunter, then to have an elite defense when you have to play the likes of Devin Leary and Sam Hartman and Tyler Van Dyke, that's a pretty good situation to be in. Also, I would say it's confidence is worth something at quarterback, especially for young quarterbacks. And if your first career game is against Georgia and that defense, you're not starting off from a good point. Your confidence is going to be a little shot from then on. So that's what I would say in defense of DJ U. It sounds like you want to say something else.
Well, look, I mean, I think that's a great point. You talk about Clemson's schedule last year. They opened with the eventual national champions. And this year, that's just not the case. They opened with Georgia Tech, another Georgia team.
You don't think the Yellow Jackets are going to win a national championship?
Not quite as formordable.
Breaking news.
They opened with Georgia Tech. Then they play Furman 5 days later. They actually play Georgia Tech on Monday night that opens on opening weekend of week 1. 5 days later, they play Furman, and then they play Louisiana Tech. So they're kind of easing into their non-conference, or their Georgia Tech's obviously not a non-conference game, but they're easing into that part of the schedule. And then the non-conference does toughen up late in the year. They play Notre Dame, and then of course they finish with South Carolina. But yeah, like if Clemson's offense is going to gain any momentum, like the red carpet is being rolled out for them. Georgia Tech, Furman, Louisiana Tech, and then Wake Forest, who was really good last year, really good last year, but Clemson dominated them in that game on both sides in the trenches. And I don't have any reason to think that that won't happen again, right? The first really tough game is against NC State at home on October 1st, which is the week after that Wake Forest game. So, and maybe that's a reason why Wake Forest is a trap game there. But I think the schedule does set up well for building confidence for this offense.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think that is the reason that you would think that they're not going to be able to just roll out and dominate Wake Forest again, is they got to go play in Winston-Salem a week before they play Devin Leary and NC State. And
Maybe.
like if you're looking at, if you're looking at what's written about the ACC or what's said about the ACC this offseason, leading into preseason, leading into fall camp, things like that, I think you're going to see a lot of like Clemson is the favorite, but hey, NC State is right there. And so that NC State Clemson game on October 1st is going to be circled in bright red ink.
Yeah.
So like, don't forget about Wake Forest and Sam Hartman the week before.
I will say, I mean, that they were playing an undefeated or a one-loss Wake Forest team that, last year when they played them late in the year. Their only loss was against North Carolina. So look, I mean, yeah, like is Wake Forest going to be more ready to play than they were last year? I don't know. Maybe playing them early in the year will make a difference, but I think the talent gap is just so big. And yeah, I mean, I'm like, if I'm looking at Clemson's schedule, looking for danger games, NC State is certainly one, at Notre Dame. And then they also play Miami late in the year.
On senior day.
Yeah. And Miami's no joke, right? Like we're going to do a video on them at some point, I'm sure. Miami's going to be good this year. They've got Tyler Van Dyke, who might be the best quarterback in the ACC, which is loaded with good quarterbacks, right? I do want to identify one trap game here. They play Louisville in between facing Notre Dame and Miami. It's not what you want. You don't want you don't want to be facing Malik Cunningham, sandwiched in between two primetime, certain to be national TV, potential playoff stakes for everybody involved. You don't want to be playing Malik Cunningham with that on the line. I think Louisville is going to be a lot better this year too. So
playoff stakes involved for Miami. You are so in on Miami. You're all in on Miami.
I think potentially, ACC conference tournament or tournament, like we're talking basketball, ACC championship stakes, potential playoff stakes for Miami. We'll see.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see. Okay. So
just one more thing on the schedule. South Carolina is no joke either. I'm very high on Shane Beamer. Obviously, last year Clemson took care of business. I think they won that game 30-0. It was not exactly competitive, but we'll see. I think Shane Beamer is a competent coach, and rivalry games. I think South Carolina is going to have a shot there.
So if the Vegas line comes out at 10.5 or 11, Spencer's betting advice is take the under.
Yeah, I think 10-2 is probably where I would have Clemson this year.